Alright, how's it going? It's been a while since I made a video. I was trying to make one every month, but I've been kind of caught up on the classes that I'm currently taking for my master's degree. So I haven't had a lot of time, so this video is later than usual, but I still want to try to make one video a month and continue on with that schedule. And for anybody who continues to watch, no worries, I will continue to make videos um, for a long time, because there's a lot of interesting information that I research, and I want to continue to bring it out, not only for myself but for others who find it interesting. So this presentation is the Masaba and the symbol of God, and Ra as molecular H2, the creator. And in the background, we see here a molecular cloud. So molecular H2 is a molecular cloud in the universe that forms stars and life inside the universe. So I'm calling that here Ra. We usually think of Ra as the sun god of Egypt, but we're going to look at it here as Ra as molecular H2O, the creation of life. Okay, let's get into it here. It shouldn't be too long. It's a short video. Okay, the earliest language. Oh well, let me stop. So we're continuing on, kind of to give you anybody new an overview, kind of history of humans, and really focusing on the origins of religious beliefs. So we're still in the origins of religion, and kind of trying to work our way from the beginning of humans in East Africa to trying to make it to pre-dynastic Egypt, and then through Egyptian history, and then up into history after that of Western civilization. So that's kind of the process that we're following here, and this is video number 21 of that series. The earliest language, sign language, is thought to be the first type of way to communicate by using gestures and motions. I describe it as a newfound idea by using one's intelligence to describe something new. Every time there was a need to describe something new, a new gesture or sound was created. Think of Adam in the Bible when he names everything. Later, it developed into language such as the click speakers, like the San or Bushman type. The Pygmies, Churchwood says, the words they used were all monosyllabic with no prefixes or suffixes. So it kind of evolves from gestures and motions, pointing at objects, making a sound of it, um, somebody else listening to you, understanding what you're talking about, and then it kind of developed more into monosyllabic uh, uh, sounds. The religious beliefs come from observation, so it's important to not mix up what religion and beliefs and science are. They are really all the same things. Religious beliefs and science are all the same thing, taken from observations of nature. They learn to communicate their experience of the day, the dark night, the night sky, fire, food, and hunting. Hunting helped them to learn about animals, which led to domestication and breeding, eventually leading to occupations such as a shepherd. Large herds created more food, more wealth, and trade. These occupations began to fuse together with the beliefs of the sky. These things continue to evolve over time into religious beliefs. To the right here, we have a picture of Mount Elgon, which is in East Africa in Uganda, at the top of the White Nile. And that area is where the Egyptians said they came from, right? They said they came from the. Uh, some people like Dr. Ben said they came from the Mount Rosari Mountains. Though that mountain range is just near this mountain, Mount Elgon, and near over by Lake Victoria or Nyanza. So they they say they came from that area, and this is really the Nilotic people or the Nile River people, which became the kings of Egypt. Okay, the beginning of gods and kings. The population continued to grow, and those of the eastern coast of Africa spread outside of Africa and across northern Africa, while those on the White Nile spread west across the Sahara. We talked all about this before. This is more just a review, general overview. Man's intelligence continued to evolve. The East was separated into family clans with a god head, while the West were separated by their wealth and cattle and kings. The wealthier families tended to take the lead role within a group, and the West created the first known kingdoms and kings who were worshipped but not as gods. So, West here, we're talking about West is on the White Nile. East, we're talking about those people in Ethiopia and on the coast of the eastern coast of Africa. The Masaba and the symbol of God. The White Nile River people of the West, because of their superior behavior, caused the pygmies to flee and break apart into smaller groups who hid in isolated areas to protect themselves and their lands, to protect themselves and their beliefs. Like the pygmies were the Masaba people who were nomads from Mount Elgon, and they used bows and arrows. To the right here we have a picture of Masaba people. Churchwood says that the Masaba were the first to symbolize the Great One or Spirit, the chief, by erecting a staff from a piece of wood or any other material with an X on it like an old railroad sign. We talked about that before. Churchwood here is just saying that it came from these Masaba people, that he thinks or he knows that it came from these people. The symbol of God and Kui land. Churchwood says that this symbol of God was brought into the cult of the stars, and therefore it didn't originate in the stellar cult. It became the symbol of Amsu, the risen Horus. That the Christians used it and changed it into the double cross. And Churchwood, who seems to still be speaking of the Masaba people and those who created the symbology of God, says that they called their sacred land Kui land. In this word, we see the Egyptian word Ku, which means spirit, and Ta, which usually means land. Therefore, we can say that this word is the land of the spirit. The symbol of Kui land and the Star of David. Ra is the only God called the Holy Spirit, and all the sons of Ra are incarnated with the spirit of their father. The letter I in Kui seems to make the name plural, and therefore the name would mean the land of the spirits or the spirit land. The identification of Kui land, according to Churchwood, is an island. The symbol that he found is the symbol contains an island with 4 cobra snakes guarding the double triangles, which are stacked on top of each other like hourglasses or symbols of time. This may symbolize the place of origin of these people, and this symbol later seems to have evolved into the 6-pointed star, a hexagram of the Star of David. So to the right here, I drew the symbol, and all around the islands in the middle, you see the water sign, so that's water around it. Then you have the four cobras, and then you have the two hourglasses in the middle. If you extend those two triangles out, push the bottom one north, push the top one south, then you will have a picture of the Star of David. The symbol of Ra and H2, Churchwood says that the symbol evolved from 2 hourglasses into 3 hourglasses, which equals 8 symbols of Ra, 8 planets, 8 known stars, or 8 protoplanetary disks. So if you add one more hourglass to the other two, put it next to it, you would have 6 triangles on the top, and you would have 2 diamonds in the middle. Churchwood is saying that this is the symbol of Ra and the 8 planets. He says the symbol of Ra is a protoplanetary disk, not the sun. He created Ra, the protoplanetary disk, created a sun and planets, and as the disk, the elder Ra, okay, that was kind of confusing. Sorry. So the elder Ra, which he's saying is the protoplanetary disk, not the sun, was what created a sun and the planets, our sun and our planets, and that the sun of Ra is really the sun, our sun, and is therefore seen. So therefore we see the Father and the Son, the two Ra's. So normally they would call the sun Horus, but really Horus is actually just the son of Ra. So that's kind of the explanation here. So Ra is the creator, therefore everything that came before him in sequence is him. The molecular cloud of H2 that created the planetary disk was him. So the molecular clouds of H2 in the universe create these solar systems. So that molecular cloud is Ra. Ra and hydrogen. He was the hydrogen of a molecular cloud consisting of H2, which is molecular hydrogen. So Ra is the hydrogen himself. It, along with gases within the cloud, creates new stars and life. Ra within these molecular clouds can be seen as the primary form of intelligence, able to create from thought and imagination. Thought and intelligence within this formation of hydrogen gas. He is a chemical gas within a gas, which thinks with a purpose, needing to create, and building upon its ever-increasing intelligence to protect its survival. The symbol of Ra is the symbol of hydrogen. So if you look at the symbol of hydrogen, we see it here. It's the proton in the middle with the one electron orbiting in it. And then if you look at the hieroglyphic symbol of the ancient Egypt, it's the same symbol. And then we compare it to the formation of the village of the Nile River people. They put the shrine of Ra in the middle with a fence of cattle around the outside. And then so that's the symbol of Ra as well. So everything is modeled on that symbol. The spirit of Ra. The chemical symbol of hydrogen is one electron orbiting around its proton, or an eye able to see. Ra moves through space as a dark cloud of gas, creating stars, planets, and life in its wake. The ancient people spoke of the spirit traveling through the night sky around the stars. So here we see the people speaking of Ra traveling around as molecular hydrogen in the sky. And then in the Bible, we see him being spoke of as the great serpent flowing over the water um, before he creates land. The Niger Congo people from the Nile Valley. Churchwood says that the Nilotics were a red skin color, which could get darker. Their hair was not woolly. They wore nose sticks and made the pygmies run from them into secluded areas because the Nilotics were taller and stronger than them. The people who traveled to North Africa became different from the people who traveled to and lived in South Africa. The L1 haplogroup, their descendants were the ones who had more profound black features, were darker and had tight hair. These were the Niger Congo people and others who had moved into northwestern and western Africa around the Niger Congo River system, originally from the upper Nile River. So, these scholars of the 19th century continued to try to have to like make these people differentiate these people's characteristics, who they saw were blacker or who had the woolly hair, because they're trying to they were trying to make it as Egypt wasn't black people. The formation of civilization of ancient Egypt wasn't from black people, which we know is not true. And then they also are trying to. It's because the Ethiopian people or the Afro-Asiatic people always saw themselves as more superior to these Nilotic Nile River people, and they were always at battle. So they differentiate themselves from them. And then when the British people are going here to study this, and they're talking to native Egyptians or they're talking to the priesthoods of Egypt, the priesthoods of Egypt are telling them this, right? Like these are black people. We're not black. You know, we have straight black hair. We don't have woolly hair on our skin. So they always differentiate. The Nilotics and the Afro-Asiatic people always differentiated each other, and they're the two major groups who are battling against each other in East Africa for power. But the Nilotics won and became the kings of Egypt, and the priesthood had to bow down to these Nilotic kings. But they worked together, and they had their two separate systems: system of kingship, and then a system of gods. Like an assembly of gods. So they worked together and they placed the king at the head of that assembly. And then that's where we get our government, and that's where they got their state government from, and that's where Europeans got their government from, though European is more Christian based with the king. And then that's where we got our United States government, and our United States government is more assembly based of gods, with the president at the head, where you see separation of Republican Democratic. Okay, the precession. The Egyptians observed the sky in the day. They observed and recorded the movements of the sun in the night. They observed and recorded the stars, moon, planets, and anything else that they could see. They must have had an amazing view at night. Imagine with no light, city lights, no electricity, their view there, near, it must have really been truly amazing. I hope to go somewhere to be able to see that. The Milky Way was most definitely visible, and they paid special attention to the pole stars. The time that it took for the sun to move around its galactic center took 25,827 years and was equal to one glacial epoch. They kept track of the sun and the precession of the pole stars, revolutions around the center of the galaxy for 250,000 years. One revolution of the sun is called one great year, and during this time the earth froze from the north southwards to the latitude of 56 degrees north. I have other videos going more in deep into this geography and Earth, the geography of Earth and precession and all that. The seasons, sun, and stars. According to Churchwood, these were the stellar people who created history and myths about the night sky. Although there were people living in Egypt at an exceedingly early time, 250,000 years is a little too long to give to these recorded observations. Churchwood says that the Egyptians recorded 10 oscillations of the sun around its galaxy center. That's why he gets 250,000 years. And the sun plays a major influence in the creation of the seasons on Earth. Therefore, observations were made of how the seasons changed relative to the sun. So Egyptians really based a lot of their beliefs on this and their seasons and the inundation of the Nile. And then you see that in the Bible. They take that and they put that into the Bible. And then here we see the earth rotating around the sun. And then if I'm not mistaken, I think our solar system may rotate around our galaxy center. It's kind of on scale, right? Everything is on scale, from the tiniest, whatever's the tiniest thing that we might ever discover, until the largest thing that we can discover. Right now we only know it as a universe, but there must be something that's larger than a universe. We just can't see it. We can't see that far yet. The god Set. We would be safe in saying that people were in Egypt at least about 200,000 years ago. We know they were at Sai Island on the Nile at this time. For the first two revolutions around the galaxy, the night sky worshippers in their burials were found facing the south. Their primary god was the Egyptian god Set or Sut or Seth. Later burials were discovered in which those who were buried were facing north instead and worshipped the god Heru or Horus. This would make Seth the earliest representation of a male god figure or character, according to Churchward, who says an ancestor of them, who was the ancestor of them all, who wore the mask of his totem, which is, Churchwood is not saying this, but I think that it probably is a camel. Science is beliefs. Set must have been a chief king, prince, or a high priest of significant importance. We know he was a grandson of Ra, so of course he's very important. It is unlikely that the gods were merely mythical characters, as even myths are at least partly true. We could find expert scholars who would tell you that myths are at least partly based on truth to those who created them. I've given many examples of scholars who say that the Egyptian gods are real people. Moreover, 10 periods of the sun's revolution, or 10 great years, is equal to 260,000 years. This is the time span that we have used science, and this would be the time span that people have used scientific observations. Science is belief. People create a hypothesis from their thoughts. Alright, that's it for this one. I believe that the only, besides my own work, the only sources I used was Churchwood here, and these are his two best books, Origin and Evolution of Primitive Man and The Signs and Symbols of Primordial Man. If you haven't read these yet, I suggest you read them. They're very good. I don't believe everything 100% in them, but What I can tell you is I've read these books, at least the origin and evolution of prison. I think I've read both of these books fully all the way through and took notes, and I've had to return as my knowledge expanded. I've uh, came to as my knowledge expanded, it helped me to see that a lot of the things that Churchward was talking about were true. I'm Stephen Webb Jr. from San Diego, California. Thank you for listening and take care.